this week's Hot Topic. How'd you like that intro? Was it obnoxious? Was it funny? I think it's funny, so I don't really care. So we've got a really exciting interview for you tonight, and it's probably not like who you would think it would be. The hot topic of the week right now is folks who are looking for GLP-1 medications, but they're not type 2 diabetic. And as you know, if you follow the channel, I am a huge proponent of doctors and patients making their own decisions without outside influence. But as you all know, with the difficulty of getting insurances to cover these medications, with the difficulties of the coupons and all of that stuff, I don't even have to tell you because you're living it. It's very difficult to kind of know which way to turn. So when I was thinking about this topic and wanting to discuss this topic, I thought there's no better person to talk to than Krissy. Krissy, though you don't know her yet, you're about to get to know her, and I'm excited for that. Krissy is actually my cousin. And Krissy and I feel like have been on these like parallel journeys together where as far as our journey with health and weight loss and genetics, they've just been actually very similar. And so I was excited when she was willing to come on the stream and chat with me a little bit about her journey and just kind of rap back and forth a little bit about what we're going through, because I don't want to ruin it for you. I'm going to just bring her in and we're going to talk about this. Krissy, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I sprung this on you and I knew you'd be a good sport about it. So thank you for joining me on the stream. I appreciate it.
Of course.
So as I was kind of mentioning, like, I feel like you and I have been on this like parallel journey. Like, I feel like we don't even have to say anything to each other. We just like understand as far as it relates to the health journey. Like, we've been through it, even though our journeys have been different to get there. I feel like we've kind of been on the same weight loss journey specifically. Now, you're not a type 2 diabetic, but you have struggled with just the challenges of dealing with your genetics and weight loss and all that. Can you give everybody like a little bit of a background about, at least as far as your adult life is concerned, what your journey with controlling your weight has been?
Of course. So for me, I always think I was always a heavy as a kid. I saw a picture of me my senior year and went, wow, I felt a lot bigger than I actually was. I would be that right now if I could. But specifically, I mean, I remember having to diet, but after I had kids, like the real adult life, it's been a yo-yo, a roller coaster. I could like put pictures together for you and they're different people. They're just different people every time. I've tried every single fad diet, MLM, every single thing you could think of to try and lose weight. And I do generally have success, but it's not sustainable. Up until this last year, I lost 86 pounds with the last program I was actually a health coach with and had amazing success. I love the program. I wasn't faithful to it. I've gained 76 of those pounds back. Not a lot of people know that, but now everybody knows. It's hard and I can't seem to now get it back off. It's harder every single time. And I feel stuck.
Yeah. I've been there before where you have worked extremely hard to see the kind of progress that you've wanted. And then I feel like, at least for me, and maybe you can identify with this, I feel like for me, whatever program that I'm on is it takes so much to get there. And it's so at least for me, and maybe this isn't your story, but it's so restrictive that the second that life starts to get tumultuous outside of my weight loss journey, if there's a bigger word for shove, like I just obliterate all things me and my health journey, and all my mental focus has to go to this one thing, and I can't with the health stuff. And then it just like as faster than it went off, it comes back on. Like, is that your experience too, or
100%. To the point where this last time I began binge eating, I would do really, really well, but it was so restrictive that if I even fell a little bit, all the wheels came off and we were just eating everything to the point that I was ill. So, which leads us to trying, now metformin, because, genetically, you obviously are type 2. We have a mutual aunt that is type 2. And then on my father's side, my dad is type 2 and his sister is. So from a health standpoint, I need to, I'm a nurse. I know better. It's not, metformin and phentermine right now are keeping me from binge eating, but I'm still not losing, even if I'm consciously eating.
If head knowledge could keep us from getting to where we were at, I think both of us would be like athletic builds,
ripped,
because we know, like, we've been on this journey. Like I was sharing with you before we came on the stream, I feel like I've been on a diet, mostly keto, for like 3 to 4 months out of almost every year for the last 20 years, trying to keep my weight under control. But the pendulum swings so hard outside of that 4 months because, again, it's just so restrictive. It's so unattainable. And also, like we were talking about, I feel like your metabolism, your metabolic system gets so much in disarray that, at least for me, like I'm full bore metabolic syndrome now. And I feel like once you hit that point, your insulin resistance is up, your triglycerides are up, like everything's out of whack and the wheels have come off. And you need something externally to fix what's been broken, within your body's chemistry. So that for me was what led me ultimately to Mounjaro, because once I got my type 2 diagnosis at 36 years old, a type 2 diabetes diagnosis, I was like, okay, like all the studies say keto, that's what whips your blood sugar. I got right back on the keto diet, even though earlier that year, Krissy, in April of that year, I had been on keto for 3 months at the beginning of that year, because that's just what I did. But still, by the time I got to November, I was severely type 2 diabetic. And so I got back on that keto diet. I whipped the blood sugars, but the weight just did not come off for 6-8 months. And that's when I kind of went to my doctor and was like, there's something broken and it needs to be fixed. So for me, he's like, all right, you're going to go under the knife. Like he was scratching his head. You've gone through the program. You've done the steps. He monitored my CG. I always grab the wrong arm. My CGM. He's monitoring that constantly. It's like, I know you're doing the right thing, because as a type 2 diabetic, your blood sugars are perfect, but I can't, some people just don't lose weight, and there's, it's time to go under the knife. Thank God my insurance didn't cover it. And he's like, there are some medicines, but they're very hard to get. And so that's what led me ultimately to Mounjaro. And in the Discord that I'm in, the Discord that BJ Davis started, there's a gal named Melissa there, and she put it the most eloquently, I think. Like, Mounjaro fixed my broken. Okay, so that's kind of my story of where I've gotten to here with Mounjaro. So you and I kind of reconnected at an interesting time for you too, because you were on this path of like, okay, like, how do I fix my broken? Can you speak a little bit to kind of where you're at in your journey, what you're looking at to kind of help you get over this hump.
Well, kind of like you, when I was on my last program, I'd restart and I'd do really well, and I'm not losing, and I'm getting frustrated to the point where I'm going over, like you said, off the rails for this last year. And now I'm, 9, 10 pounds from where I started that, and I'm miserable. I think I'm scared more than anything. I turned 40 last year. Women's metabolism go down. And then when I become premenopausal, it's going to be significantly lowered. So yeah, you became type 2 diabetic, and I was like, okay, there's another one. This is happening again, but I can't seem to find that thing. I'm afraid to do that program again because every time I do, it's so restrictive and I end up hurting myself more than I help myself, and it's just not working. So you shoot me this name of a nurse practitioner, and 24 hours later, I have not an appointment, but an order to go get my labs drawn tomorrow and make sure everything's all right, and proceed with trying to get Wegovy. But if I can't get that, insurance companies are not approving even weight loss medications. Mine very well could be that one. It does require a prior authorization. Step therapy is a big thing with insurance companies, and I'm sorry, I don't want to put 8 different drugs in my system before I decide that the one that will fix my broken is the one we can do. So my option would be to go to a compounding pharmacy and pay for it. And at this point, it's 100% worth it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you think of, like, before we came on, you were telling me, and it stuck with me because it resonates with me. I've tried every multi-level marketing scheme because they all have really great sales pitches, right? But in the end, they don't fix the broken, at least not permanently. And
Right.
and like you and I, who have been on these roller coasters for now 20 plus years, and I'm fast approaching 40 as well. If it wasn't already predisposition to be broken, which I believe it was through genetics,
Right.
you said we've got a mutual aunt with type 2 diabetes. I've got aunts and uncles on my other side of the family with type 2 diabetes. My dad died of a heart attack at 54. Like, there's a lot of genetics working against us here, so don't get me wrong. But the GLP-1 drugs that are available are absolutely a game changer. And I almost feel bad that I didn't get on Mounjaro quicker and light this fire a little bit faster, because for those of you who don't have type 2 diabetes, these drugs, just like the approval process is just slow. So I'm glad that you're looking at Wegovy, and I'm glad that you shared that, because even within my little community here on YouTube, I've got people who I would call friends now, who are looking at just being completely screwed after the first of the year with the change in the coupons, the changes there in insurance. It all kind of comes together to be this perfect storm, which means that they can't be on Mounjaro anymore. So glad that a couple of weeks ago I noticed, or I joined a Facebook group, and got a message from the gal who runs it. Her name's Angie. And the links will be in the description of this video, but who runs a Facebook page called, I don't know, it's like Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, weight loss, Nebraska and Iowa, something similar to that. I'll throw it in the description. But she's a nurse practitioner who specializes in weight loss, and I've learned a lot from her group. She's a watcher of this stream, and I was glad to be able to kind of push you her direction, because they have access to compounded versions of not only tirzepatide, but semaglutide. Now, I'm not promoting compounded medications in any way. I'm not I'm not a medical professional, but these people are, and they're connected to people who can put these medications together in compound form, that are much, much cheaper and accessible to the common person than is, you know, $1,300 Mounjaro or $1,000 Wegovy. But Wegovy, to your point, is approved for weight loss. So those of you who are watching on the stream, take heart. There are medicines that are approved for weight loss that act very similar to Mounjaro. So Mounjaro acts on the GLP-1 as well as Wegovy. It's just that Mounjaro acts also on the what is the other receptor? I'm gonna lose my train of thought here, but you've got Mounjaro that acts on the GLP-1 and another incretin hormone, where Wegovy just acts on the GLP-1. The semaglutide medicines like Ozempic, Wegovy is a cousin to Ozempic and was approved for weight loss. So there are options. You have to look at your insurance formulary to see if it's on there and it's something that is covered, but there are options. So I'm glad that you have found her and found, I can't remember the name of her practice right now, but the name of it, Push. Okay. It'll be in the description of this video so that you can find it. Chris, I'm curious, like, are you looking at taking the compound tirzepatide then, or you said Wegovy, right? Wegovy to start.
Wegovy. Okay. So here's the deal. Like, I don't know. I can look up on my insurance formulary what they have and they cover, but there's that big PA next to every one of them. Mm-hmm. So those are the hoops that you have to jump through. And if that one stipulation that I don't meet is type 2 diabetes, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we're not in the business of preventing illness instead of reacting to it, treating it. And that's a whole nother soapbox that I could go on. Being in healthcare, it's a whole thing. You know, I am desperately trying to not continue the cycle.
I'm curious if you saw this week, I put a video out last night. I did a live stream on Wegovy actually was approved at the end of December by the FDA for treatment in teens. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Here's the deal. If your doctor thinks it's safe and I haven't seen the research, if the research is there to say that it's not going to harm your child and your child wants it, you want it, your doctor is okay with it, I have no problem with it. Being in a situation where I see full-grown 8-year-olds, I mean, my 8-year-old is tall. She is, you know, larger than some. I mean, they're all catching up with her. She's not the tallest and biggest in her class anymore, and she's not overweight. But there are some, you know, 8-year-olds that are well over 100 pounds, and it's not going to get any better. So once they are of an age where, you know, they're a little more fully grown, if it's a decision the parents want to make, then I support it.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought your point was it's too bad we're not in the business of preventing disease. And I think that's where the whole debate.
Well, 100%. That's where it's going to end up.
Right. With the whole debate with these GLP-1s, where people have staked this claim on, well, diabetics need to be able to get their Mounjaro. Well, settle down. There's like 8,000 things you can take for type 2 diabetes. Right. Mm-hmm. And we do know that the ketogenic diet, not eating carbohydrates for type 2 diabetics, is an option that you can use. It's a behavior modification that you can use in conjunction with medicine. It's just that a lot of people don't want to. Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
But to that point, when you were on keto, it wasn't that your blood sugars weren't great. It was that you weren't losing the weight, correct?
Right. Yeah, correct. So really, I'm on Mounjaro for weight loss because I can control it with my diet. but
Correct.
I'm you know, I have the good fortune of having type 2 diabetes diagnosis that allows me access to these drugs. So I've never
Right.
felt a special claim to them because I do believe in the science behind the ketogenic diet as it relates to controlling your blood sugars. Just because we know when you eat carbohydrates, it spikes your blood sugars, which requires your body to make insulin. And type 2 diabetes is a disease of insulin resistance. So the more you force your body to make insulin, you know, that's not a good situation for a type 2 diabetic. So there's a lot of other medications out there. I don't feel like anybody has a specific claim on it because I think we ought to be looking at these diseases on the front end. Like, how can we avoid these? If
Right.
somebody is 280 pounds and they're pre-diabetic, it's a no-brainer. Put them on a GLP-1 medication. These are game-changing medications. So I'm glad that you have found this. I'm super glad for you, Krissy, that you have not had the unfortunate diagnosis of type 2 diabetes and that you are still in a position to do something. And so I'm so glad that I found Mounjaro, and I've been, you know, basically like the biggest evangelist of these GLP-1 medications.
I'm glad you found Mounjaro. I
Yeah,
mean, I had been told about it, but I couldn't get to a place to know anything. I mean, I could, but you know,
yeah.
you did it all for me. You're showing me how it's working. You're doing the research. You're giving it to people for free.
And I'm sure glad that you have the opportunity on the front end to avoid you know, worrying about getting that type 2 diagnosis, or at least take steps to avoid it. And that's why I think it is ultimately good that the FDA approved this in the use for, I think it's 12 to 17 age year old adolescents that it's been approved in.
Yeah.
But like, there's some questions that arise for sure.
Oh, and every person, every body, every child is different. Every situation needs to be managed on a case by case. You can't blanket anything in healthcare.
Right. Absolutely. Doctors and patients, and certainly that extends to doctors and patients and their children.
Correct.
And so I'm excited for that. I'm excited for all these GLP-1s. If you haven't had a chance to go back and look at some of my previous videos, especially the live streams that I've done some live streams on the other GLP-1s that are out there that act similarly to Mounjaro. Again, Mounjaro takes it oh, it's the GIP. So I was thinking earlier, GLP-1, Mounjaro actually acts on the GIP receptor as well. But the GLP-1s are kind of what created, you know, all of this extra, you know, basically race to the moon, right? Of these drug companies that are like, oh, what else can these do? And how can we improve upon them? And Mounjaro is an improvement upon the semaglutide, which is Wegovy and Ozempic. But if you have access to semaglutide, however you want to pronounce it, if you have access to that, sounds like you might be able to get this Wegovy. Do it. Talk to your doctor right away. If you're losing access to Mounjaro, my recommendation to you is talk to your doctor right away, because there's a lot of other options out there. And you were sharing with me on the phone earlier when we were talking about doing this that I believe that Wegovy even has a coupon where if you don't have insurance coverage, that you can still get it on the cheap.
I was watching a video, reading an article. I don't remember what it was. They didn't have the link yet, but they said there was going to be one.
Okay. For sure they have a copay assist. I don't know exactly how it works, but they do have something there. And then there are these compounded medicines, which again, my caveat with this is like, once you start searching it, you're going to notice on your Facebook stream, your whatever you do, TikTok, Instagram, you're going to notice all these like compounded medicine ads. Don't go clicking those. Talk to your doctor. Your doctor is going to be the one who writes the script. If you have a good rapport and a good relationship with your doctor, talk to your doctor. They will push you towards a compound pharmacy that has a stellar reputation, that is, you know, doing everything kind of in alignment with what the FDA requires. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to just go shooting things into your body that, you know, came from a rando Facebook ad. Like, it's one thing if you click an ad and you try to buy a sweatshirt from something that turns out to be not so
For a
legit.
doll.
For a doll, or like all the seams are sideways or whatever. You don't want to be doing that with medication. So talk to your doctor. Doctors and patients, doctors and patients, doctors and patients. I can't say that enough. Your doctor is the expert in medicine and you are the expert in you. And the two of you should be coming together to make the best decision. And Krissy, I'm so glad that you've been able to connect with somebody who's going to be able to help you. And I hope that you'll come back on once you get started and share with everybody your experience, because I think there's a lot of people in your boat right now. Some of them were fortunate enough to have Mounjaro for a couple weeks or a couple of months, and now the rug's getting pulled out from under them. I just want them to leave this interview knowing there are options out there, links in the description to the folks that I've been able to connect with on this, and Krissy is connecting, and certainly will bring you back if you're willing to just come on and share your experience. But thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing a little bit about. Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun. We have way too much fun. We probably did 25 minutes of this before we even came on, and we're like, we got to save it. We got to save it. So I hope we did justice to the conversation we had leading up to this, but thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you'll do it again.
I will, for sure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Bye.
See ya. So that's my cousin Krissy. I love her to death. She's such a wonderful human being. It's such a blessing to have great family. Not everybody has like great cousins, and a lot of people don't even have cousins that they know or interact with. Krissy and I, that's not the case. We come from a very tight knit family, and it's just fun to have those relationships and to be able to, you know, bounce things off of each other, the things that we go through. So thanks for watching this interview. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. And we got some more coming up for you on this Friday Night Live, so stay tuned.